1 minute ago, I saw something that honestly didn't make sense. Missile trails, cutting across the sky. Not over a battlefield, not over a war zone, but heading toward a US military base. And then breaking alerts started flooding in. Iran has launched missiles at a US airbase. I froze, because this wasn't supposed to happen like this. Not directly, not this openly, not this fast. And then came the words that changed everything. Retaliation. That's when my heart dropped. Because retaliation means one thing. Something already happened. Something big. Something serious enough that Iran decided to respond directly. And suddenly, this wasn't just another headline anymore. This was escalation. Real escalation. The kind that pulls countries in. The kind that doesn't stay contained. The kind that makes you stop and think, wait, are we watching the beginning of something much bigger? And the scariest part, most people didn't even realize what triggered this. But when I found out, everything made sense. And at the same time, nothing felt safe anymore. Let me explain why this moment matters. Because this isn't just about a missile. It's about what that missile represents. For years, there's been an unspoken rule in global conflicts. You don't directly hit US bases. You avoid crossing that line, because once that line is crossed, there's no easy way back. And now, that line just got tested. Reports started coming in that Iran launched long-range ballistic missiles toward a strategic US airbase thousands of kilometers away. Think about that. Not a nearby target, not a proxy attack, a direct signal, a message. And the message was loud and clear. We can reach you. That's what changed everything for me. Because this wasn't just retaliation. This was a demonstration, a warning, a shift. And then I started connecting the dots. Because this didn't come out of nowhere. There was a trigger, something that pushed things to this level. And when I looked back just a few days, that's when I saw it. The moment that lit the fuse. Days before this missile launch, the United States carried out one of the most intense strikes we've seen in years. Dozens of targets, multiple locations, explosions that shook entire regions, military infrastructure wiped out, over 90 sites hit, gone, just like that. And officially, it was described as a necessary move, a defensive action, a response to threats. But let's be real for a second, from Iran's perspective. This wasn't defense. This was an attack on their territory, their military, their power. And history tells us something very clearly. When something like that happens, a response is coming. It's not if, it's when. And sitting there watching those earlier strike reports, I remember thinking, this isn't over. Not even close. Because you don't hit that many targets and expect silence. And now, we're seeing that response. But here's where it gets even more intense. Because Iran didn't respond the way people expected. They didn't hide. They didn't stay indirect. They did something much more dangerous. They reached further than ever before. This is where things get serious. Because what Iran just did wasn't random. It was calculated. They launched missiles toward a base that's not even in the Middle East. We're talking thousands of kilometers away. That alone changes the conversation. Because now the question isn't, did they hit it? The question is, how far can they reach? And that's the part that should concern everyone. Because range equals power, and power equals influence. And when you show the world that you can strike targets that far away, you're not just retaliating, you're redefining the battlefield. That's what I realized watching this unfold. This wasn't about destruction. It was about capability, about sending a message that says we're not limited anymore. And even though reports suggest the missiles didn't successfully hit the base, that almost doesn't matter, because the message still landed. And now, everyone is paying attention. But here's the twist. Even with all that, the situation is way more complicated than it looks. Let's break down what actually happened, because this is where reality and headlines start to separate. Iran launched 2 ballistic missiles toward a major US-UK military base. One of them failed mid-flight, the other intercepted or possibly missed. No confirmed destruction, no massive casualties, no base wiped out. And yet, the world reacted like it was a direct hit. That's the power of perception. Because when people hear missile attack on US base, they don't wait for details, they jump straight to conclusions. And I get it, because it sounds huge. It feels huge, but when you slow it down, when you look at the actual sequence, you start to see something different. This wasn't about immediate damage. This was about escalation. A signal, a warning shot across the bow. And honestly, that might be even more dangerous, because now both sides have crossed a line. This is the moment where everything changes. Because once missiles start flying between nations like this, there's no pretending it's contained anymore. This is no longer indirect conflict. No more shadows. No more distance. This is direct. And the moment that hit me the hardest was realizing how fast it happened. One strike, then retaliation, then global attention, all within days. That's not normal. That's acceleration. And acceleration in conflict is one of the most dangerous things you can see. Because decisions get rushed, reactions get emotional, and consequences, they get bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's when I started asking myself the real question: where does this go next? Because if this continues, we're not just talking about regional tension anymore. We're talking about something global. Within minutes, the internet exploded. World War III trending, US under attack, Middle East war escalating. Everyone had an opinion, everyone had a theory, everyone was reacting. But very few people were actually understanding what was happening. Because this situation isn't simple. It's layered, it's strategic, it's psychological. Some people saw weakness, others saw strength. Some saw failure, others saw warning. And that's the thing about moments like this. They don't just create conflict on the battlefield. They create conflict in perception. And perception drives reaction. And reaction drives reality. That's what makes this so powerful and so dangerous. Section 8. The deeper truth. Here's what I've realized after breaking all of this down. This isn't about one attack or one retaliation. This is about a shift in how conflicts are happening. We're entering a phase where distance doesn't guarantee safety. Defense systems can be tested, and responses happen faster than ever. Iran didn't destroy a US base, but they proved something else. They proved reach, intent, capability, and that alone changes the equation. Because now, every decision moving forward carries more weight, more risk, more consequence. And the truth is, we're watching this unfold in real time. No filters, no delay, just raw escalation. So let's go back to the headline. US Airbase attacked after nuclear strike. Sounds explosive, sounds final, sounds like everything just collapsed. But now you know the truth. The base wasn't destroyed, but something else was. The illusion of distance. The idea that conflicts stay contained. Because now, they don't. And that's the part people need to understand. Because what we're watching right now isn't just a moment. It's a shift, a warning, a preview of what modern conflict looks like. So the next time you see a headline like this, don't just react. Think, analyze, understand. Because in today's world, the real battle isn't just happening on the ground. It's happening in how you interpret what you see. And trust me, this story, it's far from over. If you want real breakdowns behind viral headlines, subscribe, because the next update might be even bigger.